We've all seen 1984's Ghostbusters, a supernatural comedy following four men who become New York City's Ghostbusters. Honestly, I'd be more concerned if you hadn't seen it, or its many, many sequels and spin-offs. As one of the most famous movies in pop culture, it's been talked about kind of to death. But I'd like to talk about a new angle that probably hasn't been talked about enough, hopefully. Auteur theory. What is auteur theory, I hear you ask? Beginning in the 1950s, auteur theory says that the director of a film holds the entire creative vision in their hands. All other influence, whether it be from other artists within the movie, is outshone. In a way, this makes sense. Plenty of directors have their thing that everyone references about them. The Kubrick stare, Tim Burton's gothly aesthetic, Michael Bay's concerning love of explosions. All of these directors have visions and styles that set them apart. And in that regard, auteur theory is not necessarily wrong. But here's why I don't like it. You see, films aren't easy to make. Gasp, I know. Nothing new to say here. Movies, especially these days, require a level of effort that very few film critiques could have foreseen in the 1950s. Most modern flicks have hundreds, if not thousands of people working to make it go off without a hitch. With tens of crews in every department and tens of hundreds per department, this so-called background noise of artistry is hardly a fair description. Under auteur theory, it somewhat posits that each of the crew's effects on the production are either 1, meant to be overcome, or 2, only acknowledged when the director uses it. And frankly, that's a little dumb. The director has the vision, yes, but they alone do not hold the key to a good film. They can't possibly think and be responsible for everything. Unlike a typical author, a filmmaker rarely makes a film alone. You could be the best director in the world, but you still need good actors to read their lines, good scriptwriters to write that script, etc. As David Tredge from A Case Study on Film Authorship, exploring the theoretical and practical sides in film production, states, when addressing the responsible parties for a film, it is important to know why such analysis is needed, whether it be an issue of credit when it comes to major awards or discovering the reason why a production failed. It can be paramount to know who is responsible for the creation of a film. Film authorship theories fall into one of 3 categories: auteur, writer, or collaborative. But what about the films that don't have all that collaboration, I hear you say? Yes, that's where I feel auteur theory has a stronger grasp. The less people a movie has, the less the theory of authorship has to claw its way past hundreds of artists to become more valid. And before you say I'm going hard against this theory, I don't hate it. Not at all. Its significance is what led to more respect of film as an art, and has given rise to more creative control for the people who make our movies. Now, I hear you ask, what does this have to do with Ghostbusters? Shh, I'm getting there. If you can believe it, this entire essay is about one specific scene of Ghostbusters, about 1 minute and 30 seconds long, the Keymaster scene, where a possessed Louis Tully runs around New York searching for the gatekeeper. In the end, he's picked up by the police and brought to the Ghostbusters headquarters. This scene is, in a word, pretty plain. In all honesty, this particular scene could have been made by anyone. Hardly anything about it stands out as director Ivan Reitman's work. A crazed, possessed man runs around asking if a horse is the gatekeeper. It's funny, but not the scene you remember when you think of Ghostbusters. You think of Slimers, you think of proton packs, you think of a 40-foot-tall marshmallow man, for goodness sake. But this scene is anything but plain when you take into account the other artists in the film. The set, while lacking much in the way of props, holds a few important details. The instruments of the extras, the carriage of the horse, the trash Louis trips over in his escape, or the wardrobe, hair, makeup, giving us a believably demented keymaster, or the actors themselves giving us an interesting and hilarious read on an otherwise pretty dry scene. This is where Auteur theory cannot take all the credit. Without all these individual cast and crew members, this scene is merely an idea in the director's head. They are not paintbrushes for the director's canvas. Not paint. They are standing side by side with their own brushes in hand, adding strokes to the canvas. While the larger piece may have come into the director's mind, as it became production, it became more. The modern film industry would hardly be where it is today without Auteur theory. Critics have always been finding ways to define and describe the act of making movies. A huge collaborative effort like making a movie is difficult beyond difficult to box up neatly into who is the true author or artist. And I find quick examinations like this fascinating because, as far as I can tell, this film is a work of art in a collaborative effort to become Ghostbusters.